Hey there, viewers. You ever mess up a valve cover gasket? Let's talk about it. Today I'm working on a 2016 Ford Focus SE. It's a 2.0. And what I wanted to talk about is the valve cover gasket. I am actually doing this job for the second time. I know a lot of YouTube mechanics like to pretend like they ain't never messed up on anything before, but any mechanic that tells you they don't make mistakes is lying. We all make mistakes from time to time. I was in a rush when I put this thing together, did it a little bit too quick, and I didn't give the RTV time to cure, and I think I might have rolled the gasket when I put it on. When you're putting anything in a tight space, you want to make sure that you double check all the way around before you start tightening it down that the gasket didn't roll or flip over. Otherwise you will have a leak, as I did here. This is the valve cover gasket in question, and as you can see, it goes in a little channel. Pinch it in a bad spot, it can roll out and it'll lay flat instead of laying the way it's supposed to, and that'll cause you all kinds of grief as far as the getting it to seal properly. Also, anytime you've got a irregularity in the gasket surface, such as a hump over a cam or a timing cover that's meeting up to the head, you want to make sure you put a little bit of RTV in the affected areas that are going to be problematic, like in the corner before and after that hump, and also at the 2 points where the head and the timing cover meet. You want to put a little bit of RTV in the seam. Don't want to overdo it, but just enough light coating to make sure that it's not going to seep through that little crack. Sometimes I like to use a screwdriver to get in little hard to reach spots and spread it the way I need to. Another cute little thing I do is I take a little dab of RTV and I put it on my shop cart, and that gives me an indicator of when the RTV tacks up. That way I can touch that on my cart and see when it's ready to put together, as opposed to touching the RTV that I've already put in the engine, because I don't want to disturb that until it's time to. When using RTV and silicone, you want to make sure that you give it time to tack up a little bit before you go applying it. You don't want to wait too long, because then it's hard and it doesn't do its job. But you want to make sure it gets good and tacky, and let it firm up a little bit before you go applying pressure to it. Otherwise it's just going to smear and it's not going to do any good, which is probably exactly what I did last time. Also, anytime you're doing a valve cover gasket, you want to make sure you clean that gasket surface very good. I use brake parts cleaner, wipe everything down. Sometimes you got to use a little bit of like a emery cloth, or I use Scotch-Brite pads to clean the gasket surface. You don't want anything that's, if you can run your finger and you feel a lump with your finger, then it's probably going to be a problem for the gasket. So you want to make sure you get all that off. I'll take a razor blade, scrape off any old RTV, being careful not to scratch the cylinder head or mating surface. On this particular surface, I've got a wiring harness that's kind of in my way, and I've got a fuel pump that's in my way. So I got to kind of fish everything down in here carefully without disturbing these gaskets to get everything to mount properly. I also like to take a little brake parts cleaner on a clean rag and kind of wipe off the gasket, make sure that I'm not going to have any kind of residue of something that's going to cause a problem with its seal. I do typically go a little overboard with my cleaning, because I want to make sure that I don't have to do this job twice, kind of like I'm doing today. On this one, the number one problem is getting over these little solenoids. A good way to verify that you didn't roll the gasket is to get behind it with a mirror, go all the way around, and double check, make sure that that gasket's still sitting the way that it's supposed to. After it's down, I like to check it again. After you're sure everything's seated properly, then you can go back and torque everything down to the appropriate setting. If you got one of these, it's 89 inch-pounds. All right, one more final pass over everything. Make sure your gasket surface is clean. Set your RTV and give it time to tack up. Double check, make sure you don't roll the gasket, and make sure you torque it to the proper settings, and always double check behind yourself. Those things will ensure you don't have a leaky valve cover gasket after doing this job. I must have rushed one of those steps last time. And last but not least, you do want to make sure that you give the RTV time to cure before you start the engine and put it under pressure. Otherwise, the RTV is going to be your failure point. What other tips and tricks do you have to do valve cover gaskets? Drop them down in the comments. Share with me. Well, I hope this video helps. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe.